Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Ballcaps and Bagpipes. We're finally back after another long layoff. I think it's been about 5 or 6 weeks again, Jason. I'm John McKellar. He's Jason there.
Yep. How you guys all doing? It's been a long time. I think we've each had like 3 kids, changed jobs 4 times. I've moved. I now live in the south of Spain, and yeah, it's been that long.
We're here to talk about Scottish baseball, and we've wound right down to the end of the season. The regular season is over. We've had 2 make-up weeks. We've had the first one this past Sunday, and this coming Sunday is the final make-up week of the season. It's pretty much all said and done. We've clinched the 2022 champions. Congratulations again to Edinburgh. This time it's the Cannons.
Yay, my team. All right. We haven't won anything since I think 2013 was the last year we beat one of the league.
Yeah, it's dialing back to the old Jason Dare years, back when you were the ace of the staff there. Have you spoken to any of the guys in the Cannons about how they're feeling about bringing that title back to the Cannons after such a long
while? I haven't had a chance. It's been a really busy last few weeks here. But obviously, what we're going to tie it into is Gabriel Rincones, because he played for us that 2013 season for it's good that we tie it into him being drafted to the Phillies our last title.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think there's been a wee bit of a kind of rub of the green, a wee bit of a kind of lucky omen for you guys that he got drafted this year?
No, it's good to see. He put in a lot of hard work. There's a lot of articles on them. The one thing that we are doing is we will be keeping track of him all year long to see how he's doing there. I had a brief conversation with him the other day. I didn't realize he is rehabbing a torn labrum from 2 years ago. So that's, if you've been looking to see any kind of Gabriel Rincones news, that's why he's working out with the Phillies and just getting better. He's hoping to play come September. So, that's actually just a week away. Keep your eyes out there, and he'll probably be assigned to play fall ball somewhere. And we're wishing him all the best.
Now, I'm no expert in American football, but I'm fairly sure that if you pick up an injury like a torn labrum when you're in the minors or in college or whatever before you get drafted, that can pretty much end a career before it's even started. How often is it that you would see someone get drafted despite rehabbing such a serious problem?
Well, I think he's just never had time to rest it. Where it was one of those things there when you play college ball, you just kind of, to be honest, the coach just grinds you out. That his job is to win as many games as possible, his job, and then prepare you for the major leagues. He's not expected to baby you through there. So the fact that he was conference player of the year, despite having a torn labrum and played through it, shows you what kind of potential he might actually have.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can speak firsthand to the potential he showed just as a 14, 15-year-old child, never mind as a grown man as he is now. All the very best to Gabriel, and certainly we'll keep an eye on his progress, and hopefully we'll even get a chance to chat with him one day.
Yes, he's agreed to come on to the show at some point in time. We just don't know when it's going to be. It'll come there. So, all we really need to hope is Bryce Harper stays injured, and then Gabriel can replace him in right field. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's only a matter of time before Bryce Harper's ego swallows him whole anyway, is it not? So it should be fine. So let's quickly do a recap of this past Sunday's scores. It was make-up week 1. And from there, we'll do the standings as usual. And then we're going to jump into part 2 of our interview with John Nelson. We left John in junior high, having just hit a 3-run walk-off home run off Jeff Neiman of Tampa Bay Rays fame.
High school. You said high school. This is high school. Yeah,
he's high school. So we left him in high school. We're going to revisit him a couple of decades later as he arrives in Scotland, and we're going to talk about his time playing in Scotland and coaching the Comets as well. Before that, let's talk about the scores. This past Sunday was the first make-up week. The AAA scores were up in Aberdeen. The Galaxy delivered a 22-2 victory over the Aberdeen Oilers. So the Galaxy got those bats moving pretty early and often. Us Comets went up to Aberdeen and put up a 25 spot as well. So I think Kate Cowdew has been missing for a couple of weeks, and obviously it looks like they felt his absence quite badly, giving up those 25 and 22 runs on those consecutive games. It's never fun to be on the receiving end of a scoreline like that. That's for sure.
No, it's not.
In Glasgow, the Comets finished the 9-7 winners over the Cannons in AAA. I was there for the single A game, which we'll get into in a minute, but certainly a great result for the Comets as we wind down towards the end of the season. in fairness, the Cannons probably weren't at full strength. It's one of those games at this time of the year where they've already clinched the title, so they've probably got at least one eye on the postseason and trying to make sure that they win the double this year.
Or the fact it's the Edinburgh Festival, and half the guys are probably working at the festival.
Quite possibly. I know Rory Dunn, who's a key part of the Cannons and also runs the team. He's usually quite tied up in August.
He is we usually miss Rory for about 6 weeks, and then he gets back and goes, I'm now going on holiday for 2 weeks. So he's usually gone all of September as well. So I imagine nothing changes.
Yeah. The single A game, just the one this week. It was the single A Glasgow Comets over the Knights in a final score of 17-3, which sets up this coming Sunday, the last make-up week of the year and the last day of the regular season altogether. It sets up for quite a tasty finish in the single A division. We'll get into the standings just now and we'll find out why. In AAA, the Edinburgh Cannons, 13-3 record to finish the season. They won their first championship since 2013. The Edinburgh Diamond Devils finished in second place off the back of a 7-game win streak. Wow. Now, that's after Kyle leaving, so you have to look at the Devils with a nod of respect and just give a shout out to how well they've done to overcome the loss of Kyle and put together such a great run down the stretch.
Yeah, that's a wild one. I know Kyle wasn't the main pitcher there, but he still was a key part of someone off the bench and who could pitch in a jam there. So, we kept wondering what was going wrong with the Devils all year long. And, of course, we go away for 2 months and they go very off a 7-game win streak. Yeah.
Finishing in third place and clinching a playoff spot are the Glasgow Comets. The Comets finish at the moment 9-6. However, there's obviously the game this coming Sunday, so it's going to be either 10-6 or 9-7. But third place has been sewn up by the Comets. The fourth and final playoff spot is going to come down to the Galaxy and Breakers. The Breakers at the moment have the advantage by half a game. They sit at 6-9, and the Galaxy are 6-10. So I assume that should the Breakers lose this Sunday, that will come down to whatever tiebreaker the league has in place. I guess it'll be the season series or I don't know exactly how they'll work that out, but season series I would imagine will probably be the most simple way to do it. Bottom of the division in sixth place, the Granite City Oilers, who are 2-13, and looks like that's going to be how they're going to finish the season. Looks like they'll be done at 2-13. In single A, the Comets and Breakers are tied for first place heading into the final wake-up week, and the Comets and Breakers play each other this Sunday at Tayport. So it's going to be quite something. I'll be playing in that game. It's going to be great to go back up to Tayport and visit that amazing field they have and see all the guys up there. Great team, full of great people.
So it's going to be slightly worried that you're going to see all these new breakers who all of a sudden have names like Silvano, Xing Yan Hamish,
who's Shin Ken?
I've not seen these guys all year. These guys are amazing.
Mortina, who's this?
Exactly.
So it's going to be quite something. Obviously tied for first place going into the last game against each other. It's such, it's the perfect storybook ending, really, to the first single A season. At the end of the day, the best team's going to win and become champion this weekend. So very much excited for that and looking forward to it. The Edinburgh Knights are 4.5 and 6.5, which is due to a tie that they had with the Galaxy after 12. What I don't get is on the standings, Galaxy have also played 12, but they are 4.5 and 7.5. So I'm not sure where that extra game's coming from in the loss column.
Which website are you looking at there?
It's the standings that Paul Convoy sent me. I'm sure that when this goes out over the year, he'll leave us a message and let us know exactly why that's been calculated as it has. So, but that's the standings: Cannons, Devils, Comets, Breakers, Galaxy, Oilers, and the AAA, and Comets, Breakers, Knights, Galaxy, and the single A.
Right. Okay. There we go. The season's in the book, and then we have to look forward to the Caledonian Cup.
Yeah, Caledonia Cup coming up in just a couple of weeks. The Caledonia Classic, which is the final, I'll be commentating on. I hope that you'll be joining me this time, Jason. There.
Let's see. Yeah. I will try and make time in my schedule to do it. I got a busy schedule now, so busy times.
Yeah. Nevertheless, I will be streaming it live and providing my best shot at commentary that I can possibly give you. We've been in the final.
Wingman there. It's not the same as your wingman.
Yeah. We've been in the final. I might even wear a suit.
Oh, they're going for a suit. All right.
What say we get into this week's interview? It's part 2 with John Nelson. It's been long. I mean, we waited 3 years for the first one, and now we're waiting 6 months, 6 weeks, I think it is, for the second part. So let's bring him back on.
All right, let's do it. Let's bring John on and see what kind of intro music he has today.
Couldn't be arsed.
Welcome back to the show, Johnny Nelson, former Comet, former teammate of mine, a former coach of mine, all-time single-season home run record holder in Scottish baseball. Usurped my co-host, my distinguished co-host here for that title, and former MVP winner. We left you in high school. You had just hit a walk-off 3-run home run off Jeff Neiman, of all people, Tampa Bay Rays alum. And we're going to fast forward a wee bit to your arrival in Scotland. Why don't you just straight up tell us to start with, how did you end up over here, and how did you manage to find baseball over here?
Well, I'm not legally allowed to tell you how I ended up in this country, so we will leave that alone. No, so I came over in January of 2016, and I wasn't really intending on staying. I was kind of looking for alternative places to live and do things, but when I kind of got here and settled in, and I met my partner, Angela, and now I've been here for however long it's been. But how I ended up here is actually kind of a long story, so I'll leave that for another time. But basically, I ended up here because I had a friend that lived here, and I came to visit it and really enjoyed it and said, I'll give Scotland and Glasgow a try.
Brilliant. And how did you find the Glasgow Baseball Association?
I think Facebook, or maybe Baseball Scotland had a website. I think there wasn't much on it. Just
it was a very basic website back in the day.
a promotional video that from the what movie was it?
Major League.
Major League, yeah.
Major League 2.
Hi, we're a baseball team.
Major League, that was Major League, yeah.
So I remember. I think. Even the Facebook page was very basic. I think it had a photo of Tollcross, and then maybe I think there was a few photos of people, and one of them was Gio, and I was like, "Why is this 90-year-old man playing baseball in Scotland?" And so I think I messaged through Facebook to GBA or whatever it was. Didn't hear anything back for like 3 weeks, and finally somebody was like, "Yeah, just turn up on Thursdays." I was like, all right. And this was at the very end of the 2016 season. So I think it must have been September at some point. But I remember, because I think the standings were up. They were still updated. Again, the Baseball Scotland. It seemed like there was a little bit more minimal sort of social media presence at that time back then in 2016. But I remember there were two teams. It was the Comets and the Galaxy. And I think at that time the Comets were 1-9. They weren't doing so well.
Yeah, we had a couple of rough years there. We had a really great 2014 season, the first year that the team existed, and then a couple of really key guys, in particular Marco and Francis. They were pretty much the linchpins. They were middle of the order, and when they left, we struggled for a good couple of years to find someone like yourself who came along and was that kind of middle of the order presence. Talk to me about how you became a Comet and finding out that you were part of the team and your first impressions of the Comets.
Yeah, so when I did turn up for training that day, and I'll never forget the day I turned up. So parked it to across, and I walked up to where the field is, and I distinctively remember saying to myself, "Surely this isn't where they play baseball, right?" Because nobody claiming to play the sport of baseball would actually play on a field that looked like this, right? So I actually ended up walking down to the other side of the field, and I was like, "Nope, not much better down here either." But again, I had no idea what to expect, right? I mean, I had very little sort of expectations or knew what I was really getting into. It just, I mean, even like the worst council held baseball fields in the U.S. are still relatively well kept, so I really didn't know what to expect, but I kind of wanted to be, when I got involved in 2016, I wanted to be a Comet because I think personally, I was like, well, obviously they're the worst of the two teams here, and I'd like to sort of help impact the team that's not doing so well. And so the first person that came along to training that I had met was actually Gio, because I think Xander and Jason Stott were traveling the U.S. at the time. And so neither one of them were there. And I think I just kind of talked to him and, kind of got a rundown of what was going on and where things were. And then John Tafe was there as well. I talked to him. I can't remember who else was there, but basically it was like, there was Comets were playing in Edinburgh that weekend, and it was playing the Cannons, and you pitched. I remember this. That was the first game I ever played, was in Edinburgh against the Cannons. And so it was kind of like, I'll tag along with the Comets. But I ended up playing with the Galaxy as well that first September, because I think I played 2 games for the Comets and 1 game for the Galaxy, and it was kind of really up in the air. But at the end of it, I was kind of like, no, I want to be on the team that needs more help.
No, yeah, you obviously you filled a hole that was desperately needing to be filled for quite a couple of years there. You joined the Comets and you made a pretty immediate impact. You scalped, I think, was it 8 home runs you hit in 2017?
Total, there was 7 league home runs, but I had one in Belfast in 2017. But it was the first game in 2016. I remember I went through, and again, it was, seeing the Edinburgh field, it was kind of like, well, they're pitching off a flat surface. There's not even a mound here, kind of thing, and all this. But I remember, it was tough to say. Well, a few things that stood out. One, there was, I think, maybe my second or third at bat. I definitely hit a home run off you, Jason, but part of your fence had fallen down. I don't know if you remember this. And the left fielder claims it was a ground rule double, but to this day, I will live by it. It was a home run, but not the benefit of the doubt as a rookie for it.
No, I definitely remember you taking me deep. I think there had been an error or something on the play before, and I was pissed off. I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to throw it right down the middle and see what happens.
It was, so my very first at bat, you struck me out. It was the first time I'd seen live pitching in forever, and I got really over anxious and was like swinging at everything. Finally, I kind of settled down. And my second at bat, I hit, it was either a single or double, but your man is it the Mexican guy? Was his name Gabriel? I think he was only there.
Gabriel or Julian, one of them.
Oh, no, it was Julian. It was Julian that was out in left field. And I remember because I ended up hitting, I think I was 3 for 4 that game, something like that. But I remember talking to Julian after the game about it because he was quite good, and I think he wasn't really expecting somebody to turn up for the 1-9 Comets and like play as well as I did, I guess. But yeah, that was the first game. But I remember just it was everything from how short right field was and me wishing I was a true left-handed hitter, thinking I should have moved to Edinburgh and bat left-handed. Who knows what I would have done? To just kind of just the makeshift fences and everything. And so it really kind of, that first game really sort of obviously put things into perspective and gave me an idea of what we were dealing with. But I think at the end of the day, after that first game, it really kind of sank in that wow, there's teams here that are playing 9-inning baseball with wooden bats in Scotland, and this is pretty interesting and pretty incredible. So let's see where this goes.
So, you know, it's really interesting. So we're talking about the field in Edinburgh. So we've measured it out, and it's about 265, 270 to right field when you go all to the bottom of there. And so we measured out left field to see where people normally set it up. And it's usually set up about 270 left field, but it doesn't look the same because you don't have that giant hill there.
Wow, that surprises me because it seems so close. But I guess with the background perspective and the road there and everything, it could be that way.
Yeah, I know. And then, you know, we're used to seeing, you know, playing on fields where it's 310 down the line and then 400 down in center field. You know, so you look at perspective and you go, okay, we're a woodback league in Scotland. And you go, well, the lines are pretty short. So I'm always curious how everyone sets their field up to what the real length is in everyone's field.
The eyeball test.
Now, John, even though you mentioned yourself there that it had been a long time since you had seen live pitching when you first came over, for a guy like yourself who in the past has been used to facing 90-mile-per-hour pitching regularly, were there any aspects of Scottish baseball that you found that you struggled to adapt to, any unique kind of aspects to the game that you surprised even yourself, who've been involved in baseball for decades?
How shocking the strike zone was. Other than that, it's I mean, not really, because I mean, obviously, it's, you know, relative to being older and a lot slower. So, you know, I hadn't probably seen anybody throw that hard in, you know, 15 years by the time I had gotten over here. But I guess it varies between pitchers. I mean, for me, I always struggle to actually get slower pitchers. Like I couldn't hit fucking a changeup to save my life at times. You know, if you had a good fastball and a good changeup, you could usually get me out if I wasn't sitting on your fastball. So a lot of times I've always struggled with kind of slower pitching. That's why, like, I always thought I hit well against the better pitchers in our league, like Heishan Lee and Kyle and some of these other guys, Steven and Luke a little bit. You know, it was, you know, I think, you know, I think you just sort of adapt to what's going on. So I wouldn't necessarily say, you know, there was any sort of big change. It was just more getting up to speed with what was going on I was facing. Does that make sense?
It's really hard because one day you have a guy throwing maybe mid-70s, and next weekend you have a guy throwing 55-mile fastballs. It's a big difference.
Yeah.
They can all throw 55 as far as I'm concerned. I'm quite happy with that.
But I always had a tendency, even I don't know if you ever, it's inapplicable in Scotland because there's no batter's boxes anywhere really. But I even back when I was in my younger days, I always was sat closer to the front of the box, no matter how fast the pitcher was throwing. And I always thought it was mostly because, I don't know, Jason, if you can attest to this, you know, we don't have the grounds crew as say the Major League Baseball does. So if you're a right-handed hitter and you had predominantly more right-handed batters, the dirt would always get dug in where people were standing sort of in the middle of the box of the bat. And I hated being kind of sunk down a little bit in the holes people were digging. So I'd always go a little bit closer to kind of have more of a stable ground. And I kind of always just did that.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from. Yeah, where, like I said, there's holes that dug up. They fill them in. Yeah. It does the job for half a game, and then you're stuck with the holes again. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, and then you factor in light drizzle that we might get during the game, or even fucking stormy weather. Like it ends up the dirt is all fucked as it is. So yeah, it's not pleasant. What I wanted to next ask you was, when did can you remember the moment when you felt like you were one of the guys in terms of being on that Comets bench? And off the back of that, what was your favourite aspect of playing for the Comets?
Early on, again, when I had gotten there, I think it was Xander. Xander was having a house party, so I ended up going over to Xander's house where kind of everybody was and meeting people. there, which was one of the very first people at that party that I'd kind of met, along with a lot of the other guys, was Brian McIntosh. And he, as many Americans probably do when they move over here or are in Glasgow for the first time, I couldn't understand a damn word that guy said the first time I met him. And I ended up,
I still can't.
all right. But anyways, so I ended up at it there. I kind of met everybody. And then we had there was a race night as well that was that they had at that time as well that I'd gone to. So there was actually quite a lot kind of out with sort of just the baseball, where it was opportunities to kind of meet everybody. But I mean, really kind of after that first game in Edinburgh, it was, right, like, yeah, let's go. I started going to training and meeting everybody, and kind of fell into place there. And then in the off season, I started hanging out with some of the guys a bit more as well. And then obviously 2017 rolled up, and it was kind of like, yeah, I mean, I was a part of everything by then. But yeah, I think early on, and I've always had sort of a penchant to sort of make myself be a part of something anyways, even if you don't like it or not, I'll just do it. So yeah, it was very easy, I think, kind of segueing into the group.
So towards the end of your first full season in 2017, obviously Xander Harrison, the previous coach, he headed off down south due to work commitments. And then soon after that, you became the coach of the Comets as well as playing for the team, owing I'm sure to your vast experience. Tell me about the experience of running the team and how that compared to playing for the Comets, and going from there.
Yeah, so 2018 was sort of an interesting season. I think, when I decided to try to join the baseball league and get back playing baseball, was quite frankly for a couple reasons. One, it seemed like a good opportunity because I love playing baseball. I wanted to play baseball, but it's also kind of the opportunity for myself to sort of see what I could still do, as well as, play how it would go. And so I don't think 2017 could have gone any better. And so it was great, and kind of, I did probably everything that I had wanted to do. And by the end of that season, 2018 rolled around, and I was given sort of the managerial role. I kind of felt myself maybe not 100% into it. I think I had, it's kind of hard to explain, I guess, in a way, but I wanted very much to sort of shift to that sort of kind of manager and tutelage kind of role and coaching and type like that, but also kind of keeping up with, being in charge with everything, pretty much getting balls, everything. I mean, Jason goes along with it and everything, but I think there were certain things that sort of like wore on me. One of the things that I just came to my head that I absolutely fucking despise, which was part of being manager, was the fact that you had to take care of all the jerseys and wash them every week because you didn't know if they were going to turn up, so you couldn't leave a jersey with somebody because if they didn't show up that week, then you didn't have jerseys. And so
yeah, I'm pretty sure one of them's in Minnesota as we speak.
And I think what else was for me was I have such a high expectation of myself, and it's fine if I'm putting those expectations on myself and it doesn't really affect anybody else.
Oh, shit.
Man down.
Yeah, all right. The laptop just totally fell.
Jason will be back shortly. You continue, Johnny.
Right. So I think the other issue as well was, I kind of, I was expecting a lot more from people than I was getting, and that's not fault of anybody else. It's my fault because I was trying to expect my team to sort of give what I expected everybody to put in to sort of make the team better or do what they needed to do, as opposed to this is something that we all enjoy doing and having fun, and we want to train and we want to talk and we want to do this and that and the other. And it was kind of like, well, you know, we should all be doing this 3 times a week. We should be doing that. You know, people, I won't name names, not really turning up on time or doing things. And, you know, I guess it was the whole sort of, and this might be a horrible way of saying it, but it wasn't more so of, I felt like a manager as I was more of like a task handler, or almost babysitting at times, or, you know, that's probably not the best way to do it. But I think that that sort of kind of took its toll on me, and I didn't really give as much as I probably needed to do. And really, I just kind of wanted to, I didn't want to worry about making sure there was 9 people there. I didn't want to make sure we had an umpire. I didn't want to make sure like I had the responsibility of calling off games for weather and things like this and whatnot. I just, you know, all I kind of wanted to do when I got involved was, you know, sort of be a leader, play baseball, and kind of have that, and not really, you know, have so much more of the ancillary responsibilities that I felt some of these people could have probably done themselves. But I think at the end of the day, I could have been gladder, you know, happier that I did it. I enjoyed sort of, you know, having the opportunity to be there when some new guys came in. You know, when I was there, like Andy Vaughn came the season I was managing. And so, you know, guys like him and Gordon, some of these other guys that kind of turned up, and there was a few other people that were involved that still are, and they've, you know, ran with the team tremendously. And, you know, one of the things I had done as well, which is still kind of going, is, you know, we have a really good sort of GBA committee going now. And I remember when I kind of was in charge, really trying to get a group of people involved to start talking about what needs to be done and kind of getting the ball rolling. And so there was a lot of people that got involved, and there still are on both sides now, and they're running away with it like better than I could have ever imagined. So, you know, it's really great to see from that perspective, you know, how things have progressed from where I guess I left off. So that was a really good part of it.
It's interesting to hear you speak that way about the time you spent managing the team. Would you say then, looking back, that you, on the whole, that you regret doing it, or that you wish that you could have played instead?
Don't regret it at all. I'm glad I had the opportunity. Like I said, there's a lot of things that I'm glad I was able to sort of do as a manager. But I think at the core of it, why I wasn't maybe necessarily, you know, because I really didn't have, as far as playing, I really didn't have that great of a relative to I was in 2017. And so I think, you know, partly what, again, was I was just kind of getting fed up with having to do all the ancillary stuff. My heart really kind of wasn't in it, because it was almost at the point where, like I said, 2017 was so good, and I kind of accomplished what I wanted to do and sort of prove to myself where I was. That 2018 was a bit of a letdown. And again, that's not on anybody else other than myself. And there was other things going on in my life that I started getting involved in. Like I really wanted to get involved in the Highland Games, and I started doing more training that way and started doing different other things. And so it was kind of, you know, I started feeling the toll of going to the gym and training 3, 4, 5 times a week, playing on a Sunday, and then just not being able to go in on a Monday and do the things I needed to do that I had other interests in. And so I think it was, it was kind of this weird storm of a lot of different things that sort of made 2018, you know, not as great it probably could have been. And a lot of it was because of me. But no, by no means do I regret it, because like I said, I got to lead. I got to meet a lot of good people. I got to, you know, impart at least some of, you know, what I wanted to do and values and things, and you know, get people doing things. One of the things, you know, again, I remember 2017, we really didn't do much of was sort of warm up and stretching and running and sort of doing other things that I kind of like got more involvement in. So no, I'm very glad I did it. And I look back on 2018 very fondly. But I think if I were being honest about how it went, it probably wasn't as I would have hoped it would have been.
Is there anything in terms of on the field that you feel you've been able to pinpoint that the Comets could have done in 2018 better, that could have made that season turn out more successfully? I mean, we didn't have an awful 2018 season by any stretch, but like you've alluded to, it could have been a hell of a lot better. Is there anything that you had in the back of your mind that we should have been doing in terms of play that could have made us more of a contender?
No, it's the consistency, I think, but that's an issue throughout the league wide. When that 2018, when we had our full team there, when it was myself and Albert was on the team at that point, and if you remember Kevin, the Canadian guy that was there when he was there, yeah, I mean, I think when we finally beat the Galaxy for the first time in however long it was, we ended up winning like 30-1, and it was over after like the 5th inning. They basically ended the game, because it was, so I don't, on the field, it's just obviously you wish you had everybody there every Sunday playing like that, because it was great. And I'm pretty sure if you look back at our run total for that 2018, it was just insane, because I'm pretty sure we beat the Cannons a few times. I think we almost got to 40 runs against y'all one time.
I wasn't playing then, so it doesn't matter.
But like, yeah, no, again, I don't, it's nothing anybody did, I just, again, it was me purely. I think my expectations of what I would have wanted, and I couldn't get angry about it, right? Because it's not that way. Like you've got to take what you can get. You've got to hope players show up. You got to, take people for who they are and how they are. And it's, again, I'm not going to name names, but if there's some people acting the way they do, like I would never have them on my team, no matter how good they are, just because that's not sort of the type of player I would want. And so I was getting angry at things that were just not meant to be angry about it, because it's a fun league. And so again, I think just, that 2018 season for me, it was all me sort of not having the right sort of, again, I don't want to necessarily say it wasn't anything anybody did or myself. It just, it didn't go necessarily how it probably should have. And I look back on it and think I could have done a lot differently from the way I was.
Now, you opted not to play in 2019. Obviously, you pursued other interests. Let's talk about them for a bit. You joined, you joined up the Highland Games, and you've been doing a lot of that kind of stuff. Talk to us about your experience doing that.
So the Highland Games were great, and the good thing about here as well is there's a ton of games that go on every year. And there's sort of one professional Highland Games circuit where, you've got about 10 to 15 guys that do it and do it really well, and they make a lot of money. And then there's sort of a smaller games where there's, kind of anybody can show up, and they're not necessarily the more, well-known ones. But I always enjoyed those. One of the best Highland Games I ever did was in Les Mahego, which was a lot of fun. You get the entire town there, and basically everybody goes out, and there's a big beer tent, and the kids are all running around, and it's just chaos for an entire day, like a lot of these are. But it was, it was one of those things where I had never done it before, and you basically sort of try to learn as you go. So I was trying to do as many as I could, knowing very well that I was going to be very bad at it, and hopefully improve as it went on. And actually, the first Highland Games I ever did was in Malaysia. So in Kuala Lumpur, there's a big Scottish expat, and one of the guys here that got me into the Highland Games, he and a couple other guys always go over every year to do the Highland Games. They get flown over, and they perform the Highland Games with the expats, and it was really fun. So I ended up getting to go over there. It was great. Had a great time. And so, yeah, it's kind of ironic that the first ones I ever did was in Asia. But it was, when I had gotten back and I had started getting into it, I had a lot of people around me that I knew, especially one guy in particular that sort of, helped me and kind of coached me along. And so it was a lot of fun. It was something I knew that without, lots of training and lots of practice, I was probably never going to get anywhere better than I was doing. But you get to go to a lot of neat places and you get to do something different. And so, for as bad as I was at it, I think it really sort of, the experience of it was incredible. I think the only one sort of claim to fame that I have from the Highland Games isn't even actually doing the events from the Highland Games. It was in Saltcoats, the one down there. It's not Saltcoats. What's it? I can't think of it off the top of my head. But anyways, one of the activities they would do is they'd kind of have these sort of, some of them will have like throw this welly boot as far as you can, or roll this, bale of hay as quickly as you can. So there's sort of kind of ancillary activities you can do at a lot of these Highland Games. And one of them was a haggis throwing competition. And you stood on this kind of stump and you had to throw the haggis as far as you could. And so I ended up throwing it further than anybody, and I ended up winning a bottle of whiskey, and I was holding a bunch of haggises, and I was in the newsletter of the games in the program for the next year. So yeah, the only really good thing I ever did that was, I guess, good was I won a haggis throwing contest.
That's not bad. My only claim to fame athletically growing up was that I won a backwards race once in Arbroath.
Still counts.
Ardrossan. Was it in Ardrossan?
Ardrossan, there you go. Yes,
Ardrossan,
that's it. Ardrossan Island Games, that's what it is.
As I quickly Google away and everything. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, it's wonderful. Again, it's one of these areas that's one of these Highland Games that's not necessarily on the professional circuit, but it's these towns, especially down there on the coast and everything. It's just everybody turns up and everybody's having a good time, and it's so much fun. So yeah, there's a lot of different places that I kind of went to compete and do this, and otherwise I would probably never have gone to. So I think the first one I did in Scotland was in Shotts. So again, no reason to ever go there except to do the Highland Games, which again was fantastic. It was one of the best ones, one of my favorites. The woman and the husband that ran it were tremendous, and everybody there was so good.
See, you skipped another part of John's career. While he was doing Highland Games, he's actually transitioned to something else now. He likes to pick up large, heavy rocks.
Yeah,
explain that to us. I think because again, the people listening to the podcast are going, right. So this guy goes around and picks up rocks. Like, it makes no sense. Now we know each other, and I know what goes on behind this there. But to the audience, and if they don't follow your feed, they're gonna have no idea what we're talking about here.
Right. Yeah. So I'll make it short and sweet, but there are what's known as historical manhood stones that are placed all around Scotland, and it dates back. Some of them date back 100 years, but effectively it's exactly what they sound like. If you wanted to prove yourself as a man, you would have to pick up the stone. A lot of times you put it on a plinth, or you carry it, or you do something like that. So dotted all around Scotland in some of the most amazing remote places are just stones that sit in a field, and they all have sort of a history to them. One of my favorites called the Fianna stone. They have it's made out of a material called dolerite, and nobody knows how it got here, but they can date it back to being here for at least 800 years. And so the thought of, kind of picking up something that somebody picked up 800 years ago, doing sort of these tests of strength, is just, it's cathartic and therapeutic, and you get to see some amazing things, and they're all over the place. And I've gone and picked up a lot of them. And so it's, and there's stones all over the world as well. There's a famous one in Iceland called the Husafell, and Ireland's kind of getting back on the scene. I've seen a lot of people kind of doing historical. So there's a lot of people out there that just trace these lineages of these stones. And again, Iceland is another country, and they have what's called fustarkar, which is called full strength. Again, you have different rocks that you'd have to pick up, and if you could pick up the heaviest one, you could be the fisherman and you could get like a full strength and you would get the full amount of catch. And if you could only pick up the half stick or the half one, it all sort of just goes back to these, and then it's all tied into the Highland Games as well. The first sort of Highland Games dates back hundreds of years, and it was basically that clan chieftain needed to send a message somewhere, and he said, all right, the fastest guy to run up this hill will be favored and can take the message. And from there, it kind of spanned out to what we have now. But yeah, and so, one of my favorite things to do, most recently, I lifted what are called the Denny stones after a guy named Donald Denny. I won't get into the full history, but again, they're probably the most famous stones in the world, definitely here. And it sort of puts you in a group of, men and women who have lifted the Denny stones. And it's sort of, you just, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain that you're part of something that's been there for so many years. And it just, some guy in 2022 is picking up stones that somebody in 1876 had, and it's just,
especially as an American, it blows your mind away because you're like, yeah, okay, so we only had maybe 14 states at that time,
right? Yeah,
we haven't done the Louisiana Purchase yet, those things.
So yeah,
we wear less Scots, we don't care.
So my main focus now, I compete in powerlifting and I do a lot of stone lifting. I've got a stone lifting competition coming up October 1st in Loch Tay in the Borland Estate. So if anybody's not doing anything on October 1st, come watch the Scotland's Strongest Stone Lifter.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Get long support Big Nelson.
How heavy are the stones? That's the other thing we don't know. So, I mean, obviously you're a powerlifter out there, but as you know, and I've seen what you've got around your house, and I'm sure I'm surprised the neighbors haven't complained about being dropped on the floors. I know the Denny stones are really heavy, so I show people that and they go, "Oh my God, how heavy is that?"
They can range. A lot of them range from different weights. I think, there's ones out in Sheriff Muir that are kind of ranging from, there's 6 of them now. There used to just be one. I won't go into the full history, but some of them can be quite light, but most of them are going to be minimally at least 90 kilograms. And there's some that go up to 160, 170, like the Husafell's 186 kilos. There's different ways you can lift them, so if you can just sort of pick it up off the ground, that's, good. Or if you can put it on your lap, or if you can stand up with it, or you can put it on your shoulder, or you can press it over your head. There's various sort of lifts that you can do with it. And the Denny stones are different because they've got handles, but they're quite big, like you said. The bigger stones, 188 kilos, and the smaller ones, I think 145. But with those, it's just, you've got to pick them up with their handles off the ground and hold them.
Yeah, I know. I saw that and went, damn. Yeah, so it's quite impressive there. So if you want, give a shout out to your Instagram handle and they can follow you on there when you do that.
Yeah, so it's at Whiskey and Stones. Obviously part of it's stones. I also, for those who don't know, I'm quite obsessed with whiskey. So it's either you're going to get whiskey or stones for me. Whiskey and Stones.
What's the crown jewel in your whiskey collection?
Oh
gosh, you've never been to his house, have you? There is like, he doesn't have a kitchen; he just has a whiskey collection.
I think we're at about 330 some bottles right now of whiskey. There's not really one crown jewel, but I mean, we've got quite a lot of nice ones. So yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up, guys. Before we do though, Jason, you're wearing Nike.
I am, but it's also a Randy Johnson T-shirt. So it
cancels out, doesn't it? Yeah,
it does. I haven't figured out how I can scratch it off yet, but there will be a way.
You should turn it into like a pigeon feather.
It's funny enough. It's. I think there's 3 items of Nike stuff in my wardrobe. This being one of them. Another one being the City Connect jersey for the Marlins I bought, and the other one being my Oregon State Beavers jersey, and those are the only thing I have that are Nike. And that's been that way since the mid '90s. So
former Mariners, former Astro, former Yankee, Randy Johnson.
Yeah.
Former Giant. He was a Giant for a year.
Do you remember? Do you remember when he signed for the Yankees and he was walking down the street and people were filming him? He's like, "Get that camera out of my face!"
Yeah, was he not on the way to the stadium?
Yeah.
Like for the first time, like to put the pinstripes on, and the first thing he did was like
harassing the camera guy.
Yeah, I mean,
welcome to New York, buddy.
Yeah, that wasn't. Yeah, that should have been an alarm bell. That was an omen of what was to come. I think for Johnson, he just didn't handle New York well.
He handled it better than John Rocker, though.
I would say he handled it better than Joey Gallo.
Yeah. Who's now thrilled to be out in LA. It looks like he's doing really well.
Well, he can leave his house now.
Yeah. Poor guy, man. Like it wasn't cutting it on the field, but you don't want anyone to feel that way, just because of a game. It's one of those things, isn't it? Let's leave it there, guys. It's been a really great time chatting with you again, John. Hopefully you'll come along to the game sometime. And join us, even if it's just to cheer us on from the sidelines. You can even join me and Jason on commentary next year at the All-Star game if you felt like it. But you have to be there at least to take it in. It was a great fun that All-Star game in July there.
Yeah, it looked great fun. No, I've always said, I'm not going to go anywhere. Obviously I've got a lot on my plate with other things I'm doing, but I'll always be around and hopefully come out for as much as I can.
Brilliant. Thanks very much again for joining us on the show and talking with us over these 2 mammoth hours of chat that we've had. Jason, we will be back in the next couple of weeks to chat about the Caledonia Classic playoff run and obviously the results from this Sunday's games in the makeup week.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll be back now, and it's hopefully we can have a more regular schedule from here on out.
Yeah, it won't be every week for the rest of this year, but hopefully we'll be back to normal for next season, and we've got some really cool things lined up for the off season as well ahead of the awards night. So that's it from us. We'll see you soon.